Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to The Bald Perspective. On your way in the door, go ahead and touch the like button. Hit subscribe if you've never subscribed before, and hit the notification bell so you get updates when we upload new content. Let's talk. So, this is my first commentary on the Baltimore Ravens head coaching search since the news of John Harbaugh had broke. And the Baltimore Ravens, man, are doing their due diligence with going through every type of coach out there: defensive minds, offensive minds, coordinators, assistant head coaches, past coordinators, all those kind of things. The Baltimore Ravens are doing their due diligence. And so as I'm looking at these candidates, right, there is a theme that seems to be consistent, whether it's national sports media, local sports media, or content creators, is that the Baltimore Ravens probably need to hire a man who can lead men, right? And so I'm looking at the candidates, and a couple of names jump out in the context of grown men leading grown men, right? And so, not in any particular order, but if I had to choose, first and foremost, I'm going to go with Vance Joseph as head coach. That would be my top candidate. He's not extremely old. He's only 53 years old. He's already been a head coach in this league, although it was unsuccessful. But now he's leading one of the top defenses in the entire league, and that is with the Denver Broncos as their DC. And the reason why I lean in the direction of Vance Joseph is because there had to be something about him after having an unsuccessful head coaching endeavor in Denver for them to hire him once again to lead their defense, and he's done a spectacular job. But let's get into why his head coaching tenure with the Denver Broncos didn't work. And you have to start with the quarterback position. If you don't have a quarterback, you really don't have a chance to be successful. His quarterbacks starting, that is, in Denver were Paxton Lynch, Trevor Siemian, Case Keenum, and Brock Osweiler. Now, you tell me, you tell me who is leading them to any type of victory. But when you look at his defensive acumen, in 2017, his defense ranked third overall in yards allowed. In the 2018 season, which ended up being his dismissal season, it dropped to 22nd. But part of that problem is this: when you don't have a quarterback who can move the ball down the field, stay on schedule, put points up, you continue to put your defense in a bind. And no matter how great a defense is, no matter how great a coach coaches defense and the scheme is, if they're on the field too much, they're going to run down and they're going to give up points, which I think is more likely the issue with what happened back then in 2017, 2018. He's well versed in defense. It's absolutely not a speculation. You can see the numbers, whether it was back then, 2017, 18, or even now with what he's doing. And you know what? There's no audition, right? Like a real game audition. And they will get an opportunity to face off against the Buffalo Bills this coming Sunday. And so we'll see. Because Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks who is playing at an elite level. And so we're going to see what his defense can do against this caliber of quarterback talent, because that's the caliber of quarterback we're going to face, whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's Joe Burrow when healthy, whether it's, let me think of Justin Herbert, whether it's Trevor Lawrence. You know, there's a lot of good quarterbacks. And so I want to see what Vance Joseph's defense does. And it does help to have one of the best corners in the league in Surtain. Along with that defensive front, they don't have a lot of what you call league-wide names. These are guys that have been developed under Vance Joseph's leadership, and they are now balling. And so we're going to see this coming Sunday what his final audition will be for the Baltimore Ravens head coaching job. Brian Flores is another hot name rumored to be a top candidate for the Baltimore Ravens head coaching job. Although he has not had an interview yet, the rumor is that he is expected to be in Baltimore in some capacity for a head coaching interview. Now, Brian Flores does not have a postseason audition such as a Vance Joseph, so you have to take his 2025 resume, his most recent body of work, to get a real feel for his acumen. So when you look at his defense out in Minnesota this year, they ranked 7th in total points allowed, 2nd in pass defense, and 3rd in total defense. So you have to take that in concert with bad quarterback play. We all understand that if a team does not have a quarterback that can keep the chains moving, give that defense an opportunity to get off the field and rest and get recharged, that defense will wear down and they will become less effective. So for him to be accompanied by a bad offense, for his defense to put up those kind of numbers, it kind of speaks to the job he did out in Minnesota this year. And maybe it's about time for the league to give Flores another head coaching opportunity. All right. So those are my top 2 guys from a defensive perspective. When we look over at the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot of buzz right now. And I even read an article about Kevin Stefanski may be one of the leading candidates for the Baltimore Ravens job due to the fact that he puts on a real structured, systematic type of offense, which could be beneficial to Lamar Jackson. And if I'm remembering the list of already interviewed, he's already had an interview. Now, of course, he doesn't have any postseason audition. In fact, if you look at what the Browns were doing offensively for the last several seasons, it's been a mess. But that's just simply because his quarterback position has been a mess. But he has been, I think, Coach of the Year a couple of different times, which means, he has done some good things as a head coach. I just don't know if we want him to walk across the hall and be a part of what we got going on in the Ravens. But in truth, he may be a leading candidate. Not for me. That's just what the rumor mill is reporting. When you look from an offensive perspective, let's look at Joe Brady. I think for me, he should be in the top 5 coaching candidates for the Baltimore Ravens. And the interesting thing is he's having live auditions, right? It's an offense that we've seen for a couple of seasons. It's an offense that defeated us this year in the regular season. And it's an offense that helped put us out of the playoffs last season. So we've had a real close look at Joe Brady. But I think the benefit of Joe Brady is his ability to play call, his ability to blend the run and the pass, and his ability to allow his mobile quarterback to operate as a dual threat when he needs to, but not make it the linchpin that makes the offense go. And so I do have an appreciation for what Joe Brady has done with Josh Allen, because Josh Allen's game and Lamar Jackson's game, although different, there are some similarities. When Josh Allen runs, he's more of a power runner. He does have some good speed for a guy his size. When Lamar Jackson runs with the ball in the context of escaping and things of that nature, he's more elusive, twitchy, fast, that kind of thing. But Joe Brady, his passing scheme, the run game has been very, very productive. And I think that as you continue to watch him put on his active resume this postseason, which could end up in a Super Bowl, I think that he'll become a higher candidate on some head coaching list for sure. I think that facing off against a hot Denver Broncos team who is going to come in rested off of this bye week, I think will say a lot about what Joe Brady can do as an offensive coordinator. Not that this game in particular will begin or end his candidacy for the Baltimore Ravens head coaching position, but I do think that it will speak loudly what he does against that Denver Broncos defense. So here's what's interesting. It's kind of like Vance Joseph versus Joe Brady this weekend, live action audition. So tap in for that for sure. When you think about probably the young dynamic genius of an OC, you're going to have to land with Clint Kubiak, who, if we're going to lean offensively, is probably my go-to guy. I know that the defense of the Baltimore Ravens has had a lot of trouble. They have been in trouble for the last couple of seasons, and we can pinpoint a couple of different things. We can talk about scheme, but mostly we could talk about not having an edge rush in any type of capacity. But yet and still, I think that going with a Kubiak or even a Joe Brady leans in the direction of, let's see if there is more to Lamar Jackson that hasn't even been touched just yet. And that's the exciting part of going in the offensive direction, right? When you look at Sam Darnold, who has done some good things out in Seattle, the Sam Darnold who is on his, I think it's his fourth team. I know he was drafted by the Jets. He went to Carolina. He played in Minnesota, now in Seattle. So he's either on his fourth or fifth team if I missed a team, but he's playing very, very well. He and Jackson and Jigba has become Jackson Smith and Jigba has become one of the dynamic connections in the league, or the most dynamic connection in the league. And Clint Kubiak is the pioneer of that. And so I think that even though they have a dynamic passing game, he also is not ignoring the run game out in Seattle. They want to be a run team, especially being led by Mike McDonald. And so when you see what they do, live audition, here we are again, another live audition this weekend. I think that we'll be able to come back next week and inspect every candidate that I have on this list, with the exception of a Brian Flores. But those would be my hot five right now. Jesse Minter is the last name I will mention. He's a close sixth spot for me right now. The only thing with him is that he's a part of that Harbaugh umbrella. You know, he was in Baltimore, Harbaugh era, went to Michigan, Harbaugh era, back in the league, Harbaugh era. And that's not to say the Harbaughs are bad coaches or anything like that. It's just that sometimes when you want to break free, you want to break free, right? And so although he has a lot of steam behind him right now, I think he will land some type of head coaching job, if not this year, then next year. But I think I would put him in that second tier of candidates just because of, again, being attached to the Harbaughs. Again, you want to break free from that in some capacity. And that's the same reason why I got Anthony Weaver in that second tier as well. But I'm going to dig a little more into these guys, the Mentor and the Weaver, and they may move up. But let's check out these auditions this coming weekend, and we'll talk about it next Monday. I'm out.